The deception. Commander Ilara Hayes stood at the observation window of Orbital Platform Alpha, watching as the 13th alien vessel was towed into Earth's shipyard. The massive warship, nearly a kilometer long with sweeping organic curves unlike anything human engineers had designed, looked impressive from a distance. But Ilara knew better. "Another pile of junk," she muttered, her breath fogging the reinforced glass briefly before dissipating. 6 months ago, humanity had made first contact with the Varaxian Alliance, a coalition of 7 spacefaring species that controlled a significant portion of the Orion Arm. The Varaxians had seemed benevolent, even generous, offering to sell Earth a fleet of slightly outdated but fully functional warships to help humanity protect itself in a dangerous galaxy. Earth's United Defense Council had jumped at the opportunity. In exchange for 20 warships, Earth had traded away exclusive mining rights to the asteroid belt, patents to several breakthrough technologies, and cultural artifacts dating back thousands of years. The Varaxian ambassadors, tall, elegant beings with iridescent scales and 4 arms, had smiled throughout the negotiations with what humans later realized was thinly disguised contempt. "Commander Hayes," a voice called from behind her. Ilara turned to see Dr. Mira Seto approaching, a tablet clutched in her hand. The chief engineer's normally impeccable appearance was disheveled, with dark circles under her eyes suggesting days without proper sleep. "You've completed the assessment?" Ilara asked, though she already knew the answer. Dr. Seto nodded grimly. "Same as the others. The main reactor's control systems have been deliberately sabotaged. Weapons platforms are gutted, not just deactivated, but with key components physically removed. Navigation and targeting systems are running on processors that were outdated when my grandfather was in diapers." Ilara took the tablet, scrolling through the detailed analysis. Each report was more damning than the last. These weren't just outdated ships. They were deliberately crippled, designed to fail catastrophically if Earth ever tried to use them in actual combat. "They sold us a fleet of death traps," Ilara said, her voice tight with controlled anger. "The Council's meeting in an hour," Dr. Seto replied. "Admiral Chen wanted you there." The United Defense Council chamber was secured beneath Geneva, its walls lined with screens displaying the 20 Varaxian vessels now in Earth orbit. Admiral Li Chen stood at the head of the table, his weathered face impassive as representatives from Earth's major powers argued heatedly. "We should demand reparations," the European Union representative insisted, pounding his fist on the table. "This is fraud on an interstellar scale." "With what leverage?" the representative from the African Union countered. "The Varaxians left our system yesterday. We have no ships that can pursue them, no weapons that could threaten them, and no legal standing in their courts," added the representative from South America. "We signed the contracts. They technically fulfilled their obligation, delivering 20 warships. The fact that they're unusable wasn't specified in the terms." Admiral Chen cleared his throat, and the room fell silent. "Dr. Sato, your assessment, please." Mira Seto stood, activating her presentation. Holographic schematics of the alien vessels appeared above the table. "The ships aren't just defective," she began, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "They're deliberately sabotaged in very specific ways. Key components were surgically removed, control systems hobbled, and safety protocols bypassed." She paused, allowing the implications to sink in. "In my professional opinion, these ships were designed to fail catastrophically if we ever attempted to use them in combat. They would explode, killing their crews, and possibly causing significant collateral damage." A heavy silence fell over the room. "They wanted us to die trying to defend ourselves," Ilara said quietly, "so they could return as saviors and take what they wanted without resistance." Admiral Chen nodded slowly. "That is our assessment as well, Commander Hayes. The question is, what do we do now?" Ilara stepped forward. "Permission to speak freely, sir." At Chen's nod, she continued, "The Varaxians made a critical mistake. They assumed we'd try to use these ships as they were designed. They underestimated human ingenuity. She approached the holographic display, manipulating it to highlight specific sections of the alien vessels. The ships are sabotage, yes, but the fundamental architecture is sound. Hull integrity, structural supports, life support systems, these are all intact. We don't need to repair these ships. We need to rebuild them. Our way. Dr. Seto's eyes widened as she understood. The Varaxians left us the blueprints for advanced technology that would have taken us centuries to develop independently. Even with the sabotage, we can reverse engineer. Not just reverse engineer, Ilara interrupted, her eyes gleaming with determination. Improve. The Varaxians built these ships according to their understanding of physics and engineering principles. But humans have always excelled at finding unorthodox solutions. Admiral Chen studied Ilara carefully. What exactly are you proposing, Commander? Project Phoenix, sir. We strip these vessels down to their frames and rebuild them using a hybrid of Varaxian technology and human innovation. No alien race would expect it. They all assume their technology is superior, but humanity has always done more with less. The resources required would be astronomical. The North American representative objected. Less than what we'd need to build a fleet from scratch, Ilara countered. And we need defenses. The Varaxians will be back, and I doubt they'll come as friends next time. Admiral Chen considered for a long moment before nodding decisively. Commander Hayes, you will lead Project Phoenix effective immediately. Dr. Sato, you'll head the engineering division. I want the first prototype ready for testing in 18 months. 12. Ilara said confidently. We can do it in 12. As the meeting adjourned, Dr. Sato fell into step beside Ilara. 12 months? That's impossible. Ilara's lips curved into a determined smile. That's what they're counting on, Doctor. But they don't know humans very well, do they? Over the next 11 months, Earth's orbital shipyards transformed into hives of activity. The global cooperation that Admiral Chen had requested materialized with surprising speed, driven by the common threat. Nations that had been adversaries for centuries now pooled resources and expertise. The Varaxian vessels were systematically stripped down to their structural frames, their alien components carefully cataloged and studied. Teams of engineers worked around the clock, reverse engineering the alien technology and identifying its weaknesses and strengths. Ilara spent most of her time in the prototype vessel, codenamed Defiance. What had once been a Varaxian light cruiser was now barely recognizable, its sleek curves interrupted by angular human additions, its smooth hull now bristling with newly designed weapon systems. Chief Engineer's report, Dr. Sato announced as she entered the command center, which had been redesigned with human ergonomics in mind. Go ahead, Ilara said, looking up from the tactical station she was calibrating. Reactor integration is complete. We're achieving 142% of the original Varaxian power output with our hybrid design. Ilara raised an eyebrow. I thought you projected 130% maximum. Dr. Seto's exhaustion was momentarily replaced by pride. We found that by reconfiguring the plasma containment field using principles from our experimental fusion reactors, we could push it further without compromising safety margins. And the weapons systems. Better than expected. The Varaxians left the mounting points and power conduits intact, assuming we couldn't develop compatible weapons. Lieutenant Park's team adapted our railgun technology to use the alien power systems. The result is impressive. Before Ilara could respond, the communication system chimed. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main screen. Commander Hayes, we've detected a Varaxian diplomatic vessel entering the system. ETA to Earth orbit. 6 hours. Ilara exchanged glances with Dr. Sato. Sooner than we expected. Indeed, Chen replied. I need Defiance operational for a demonstration. Can you do it? Ilara turned to Dr. Sato, who nodded confidently. We'll be ready, Admiral. It's time the Varaxians learned what happens when you underestimate humanity. The Reckoning. The Varaxian diplomatic vessel, Enlightened Discourse, hung in Earth orbit like a gleaming silver needle, its hull unmarked by visible weapons, though Earth's sensors detected powerful energy signatures beneath its smooth surface. Ambassador Thalvor stood on the bridge, his upper arms crossed in the gesture his species used to indicate superiority, his lower arms holding a display showing scans of Earth's orbital facilities. "Primitive," he remarked to his aide. "They've barely begun to modify our generous gifts." As expected, they lacked the technological sophistication to understand what they purchased. His aide, younger and less experienced in dealing with pre-spacefaring species, flicked his tongue nervously. But the energy readings from their shipyards, inefficient human power sources, Thalvor dismissed. "Prepare the rescue proposal. We will offer them protection from the swarm in exchange for complete access to their planet's resources. Given their vulnerability, they will have no choice but to accept." The swarm was no fabrication. That much was true. The collective consciousness of insectoid machines had been devouring worlds at the edge of Varaxian space for decades. But the timing of their approach to the Sol system was too convenient to be coincidental. In the newly constructed orbital conference facility, Ambassador Thalvor sat across from Admiral Chen and Commander Hayes. The Varaxian's 4 arms were positioned in careful neutrality, though his iridescent scales rippled with barely concealed disdain. "Admiral Chen," Thalvor began, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into flat English, "we have grave news. A hostile force known as the Swarm has entered this sector. They are ruthless automatons that consume all in their path. Your world, with its limited defenses, is directly in their trajectory." Chen's face remained impassive. "How unfortunate. And what does the Varaxian Alliance propose?" Thalvor's upper right hand made a gesture of magnanimous offering. "We are prepared to extend protection to Earth. Our battle fleet can be diverted to your system within 20 of your days. In exchange, we would require certain concessions: access to your remaining resources, administrative authority over your defense initiatives, and the return of our technical vessels which you have attempted to modify." "Generous," Chen replied without inflection. "However, Earth may not be as defenseless as you believe, Ambassador." Thalvor's scales flickered in amusement. "With respect, Admiral, our scans indicate that the vessels you purchased have been significantly altered from their original design. Such modifications by a pre-spacefaring species would render them, at best, inoperable, at worst, dangerous to their crews. Perhaps a demonstration would be informative," Commander Hayes suggested, speaking for the first time. Before Thalvor could respond, the facility's main screen activated, showing a view of Earth orbit. A single ship detached from the orbital shipyard, the Defiance. Even at a distance, it was clear this was no longer a Varaxian vessel. Its lines were harder, more angular in places, with visible modifications to its hull and propulsion systems. Thalvor's scales rippled in confusion. "What is this?" "This," Commander Hayes said, "is human ingenuity, Ambassador." On the screen, the Defiance accelerated with a burst of energy that caused Thalvor's translator to emit a startled chirp. The ship performed a series of maneuvers that should have been impossible according to Varaxian engineering principles, turning sharper, accelerating faster than its original design specifications would have allowed. "Impossible," Thalvor whispered, his scales now pulsing with alarmed colors. "You made a fundamental miscalculation, Ambassador," Hayes continued, her voice hard. "You assumed we would try to repair your sabotaged ships according to your design principles. Instead, we stripped them down and rebuilt them our way." The Defiance fired its weapons system at a designated asteroid target. The hybrid railgun technology, powered by the modified Varaxian reactor, obliterated the asteroid with a precision that made Thalvor's eyes widen. "The prototype exceeded our expectations," Admiral Chen added calmly. "We've applied the same principles to the entire fleet. 19 vessels, Ambassador, each with comparable capabilities." Thalvor's composure shattered. This This is a violation of the technology transfer agreements. These modifications were not authorized. The agreements, Chen replied evenly, specified only that we purchased the vessels as is. They placed no restrictions on what we could do with them afterward. Your legal experts were quite thorough in protecting your rights to abandon us with defective goods, but not in preventing us from improving them. Before Thalvor could respond, the facility's alert system activated. A junior officer burst into the room, his face pale. Admiral, multiple unknown vessels have appeared at the edge of the system. They don't match any known signatures in our database. On the main screen, the image shifted to show a swarm of angular, insectoid ships moving in perfect coordination toward Earth. The swarm, Thalvor whispered, genuine fear replacing his arrogance. They're earlier than our projections indicated. My ship, I must return. Your ship will remain in Earth orbit, Ambassador. Admiral Chen said firmly. We would not want to deprive you of witnessing humanity's response to this threat. Over the next 6 hours, Earth's transformed fleet moved into defensive positions. The Defiance, under Commander Hayes' direct control, took point position. The Varaxian diplomatic vessel was ordered to maintain its position, its communication systems monitored to prevent any unauthorized transmissions. On the bridge of the Defiance, Ilara Hayes studied the tactical display. The swarm vessels, over 30 of them, were approaching in a formation designed to maximize their collective firepower. They operate as a hive mind, Dr. Seto observed from her station, where she monitored the ship's hybrid systems. Each individual ship is an extension of the whole. Then we need to disrupt their communication, Ilara decided. Lieutenant Park, target their command ship with the EM pulse cannon. The weapon had been a late addition to the Defiance's arsenal, a human creation that utilized the Varaxian power systems in ways the aliens had never considered. It fired a concentrated burst of electromagnetic energy designed to overwhelm and disable the electronic systems. The pulse struck the central swarm vessel, causing it to falter momentarily. The effect rippled through the formation as ships suddenly lost their perfect coordination. All vessels, engage according to your assigned sectors. Admiral Chen commanded from the Orbital Command Center. Remember your training. What followed was a display of combat that would later be studied in military academies across the galaxy. The human-modified fleet moved with unexpected agility, their hybrid weapon systems striking with precision and power that caught the swarm unprepared. 3 hours into the battle, the tide had clearly turned. Over half the swarm vessels had been disabled or destroyed, while Earth's fleet had lost only 2 ships, their crews safely evacuated. In the orbital conference facility, Ambassador Thalvor watched with undisguised shock as the supposedly primitive humans systematically dismantled a force that had been terrorizing the edge of Varaxian space for decades. How? He finally asked, turning to Admiral Chen. How did you accomplish this in such a short time? Chen's gaze remained fixed on the battle display. You gave us broken ships, Ambassador, thinking we would either fail trying to use them or remain dependent on your protection. But throughout our history, humans have excelled at making do with what we have, at finding solutions where others see only problems. The Varaxians build perfect, specialized tools for each task. Commander Hayes added via communication link from the Defiance. Humans build adaptable, multi-purpose tools. We embrace the unorthodox. That's something your people never understood. As the last swarm vessel retreated from the system, pursued by 3 Earth ships to ensure it wouldn't return, a silence fell over the conference room. Finally, Admiral Chen turned to the Varaxian ambassador. Now, Ambassador Thalvor, I believe we should discuss new terms for Earth's relationship with the Varaxian alliance. As equals, Thalvor's scales had faded to a pale blue, the Varaxian equivalent of bloodless shock. The Alliance Council will need to be consulted, he managed. Of course, Chen agreed reasonably. And while they deliberate, perhaps they should consider this. The technology we've developed to transform your discarded vessels is uniquely human. It cannot be simply copied or stolen. If the swarm continues to threaten Voraxian worlds, you may find yourselves in need of our assistance. 2 months later, Commander Ilara Hayes stood once again at the observation window of orbital platform Alpha. Below her, Earth continued its serene rotation, seemingly unchanged by recent events. But humanity had been irrevocably transformed. "The Galactic Concord has approved our membership application," Admiral Chen said, joining her at the window. "Not as protectorates or clients, but as full members with voting rights." Ilara nodded, unsurprised. News of how Earth had defeated the swarm had spread quickly through nearby systems. The diplomatic delegations had followed shortly after, eager to establish relations with the species that had accomplished what the older civilizations could not. "And the Voraxians?" she asked. "They've agreed to honor their original commitments and provide compensation for the sabotaged vessels," Chen replied with a slight smile. "More importantly, they've requested technical assistance against the swarm incursions in their territory." "Ironic," Ilara observed. "They tried to make us dependent on them, and now they need us," Chen finished. "That's the thing about underestimating humans, Commander. It rarely ends well for those who do it." Beyond the window, the transformed fleet hung in orbit, a testament to human perseverance and ingenuity. What had begun as a desperate salvage operation had become the foundation of Earth's new position in the galaxy. They had been sold junk. They had built salvation. And the stars would never look at humanity the same way again.